So let's talk about Jamaica. Now, if you read the news and if you follow social media, you would think that the sky is falling. And I do quite a bit of reading and following myself, so that I'm abreast, I keep abreast of what people are saying and what people think. Because it's important as a leader to have that understanding. Now, we have been doing very well on our development goals. We have done an assessment, and we're not going to hit developed country status by 2030. But hey, hear what? Jamaica is doing the best out of all the Caribbean countries. So we are co-chairing with the Kingdom of the Netherlands the whole business of the future-proofing, and I'm here to, well, today I did an address to the summit, and tomorrow I will do some other events. So the question of Jamaica becoming a developed country is something that I have to confront every day. And every day we're making steps towards becoming a developed country. But there is a struggle. There is a real struggle in our country, because we still have significant levels of absolute poverty. We still have significant levels of violence. We still have poor infrastructure. Minister Johnson Smith was telling us about the efforts that we're making in healthcare, in education. But the problems are still significant. And the truth is, my friends, the problems create great frustration for our people. Great frustration. Which is why sometimes the narrative about Jamaica drowns out the good and the achievements. Because the problems are a lot. But of course, the problem didn't start yesterday. They didn't start in 2016. They didn't start in 2011 or 2007 or 1972 for that matter. The problems that Jamaica has had for, let's say, the last 180 years are problems of us not having an economy. I'm going to take a step back, and I want you to hold on to my hands, and we're going to step back in time. 1865. Anybody knows what that was?
Abolition.
Help me see if my history is right. That's the Morant Bay Rebellion. You know what caused that? Anyone? You don't have to answer, I'll tell you. The Morant Bay Rebellion was really because the social conditions in the country was so difficult Jamaica had experienced a massive cholera outbreak. Almost 40,000 persons had died. Remember, 30 years before that, we were just coming out of slavery. We had emancipation. The former enslaved just couldn't find work. And when they did find work, the wages were so low. And the planters wanted to ensure that the former enslaved didn't have land, so that they couldn't become farmers, so that they had to come back to the plantation. It was an immiseration of the population. And then there was the issue of justice. Whenever there was a conflict, particularly with people who had wealth or who were elite, the court system didn't give justice to the former enslaved poor person. And that was the root of the Morant Bay Rebellion. That's why Paul Bogle decided to resist. Coming out of that, the British looked at Jamaica and they realized that they had to change how they administered the country. And that's when they changed parish boundaries and put in new administration and really started to try to build a country out of Jamaica. Because from 1834 to 1865, there was no real attempt at dealing with the social and economic issues of the former enslaved. Even the promise of education that came out of the emancipation period, even that wasn't met. So, I want you to make a connection to the challenges that we have had rooted in our history. The next time we had a massive conflagration in Jamaica would be in the 1930s, the labor riots. And what was the cause of that? Again, the same issue. People just couldn't find work. And when they found work, the labor pay and the conditions were so poor that it caused that social upheaval, which led to the formation of unions. Well, it led to the formation of political parties and then unions. In our case, it was the reverse, the formation of a union and then the political party. But that is when Jamaica started to take shape, to take on its political independence, starting from the 1930s. So if you look at those two major points in our history, the issue has been not being able to provide an economy to address the social needs of our people. We got independence in 1962, and that independence really was our political independence. And that political independence also gave way to the start of our economy. Between the mid-1950s and up to the 70s, Jamaica experienced what could be described as an economic boom. And that was probably the period in time in our history when we had the fastest and highest economic growth rates. And then from the 70s onwards, we struggled. Struggled right through the 70s, struggled in the 80s, struggled in the 90s, and we are still struggling. The issue for most Jamaicans is we want employment, we want better schools, we want better roads, we want better hospital care. But you would scarcely hear someone saying, we want a better economy. Think about it. There is a disconnection between the delivery of roads and water and health care and the economy. I'm walking in a town called White Horses in Westmoreland, and obviously a returning resident, she saw me in the market and she said, "You must fix the road." I was in Hanover, again, another returning resident, she said to me, "You know, it's a disgrace, we don't have water here." And I humbly listened, and because I understood, as I said, the frustration with all of the issues that we have. But you who live in the United States, you have a different perspective on things. Because, as I see it, you vote for your economy.
It's a complicated question.
Yes. Because in the country that you have chosen to live, there is a real connection between the economy and the infrastructure, the economy and the healthcare, the economy and you being able to go to the supermarket. But somehow in our electorate there is a disconnect, that the economy doesn't really matter. A government that runs the economy properly doesn't really matter. Now what that has led to is a kind of politics where the rules of economics do not apply. So politicians will get up and promise to do anything. Mm-hmm. They will say we're going to do all kinds of things with no connection. How are you going to pay for it? What does it cost? Now, I start there because I want you to understand that what my administration has done, not alone, the former administration played a role as well, but we really carried it to the extent that it is now, is that for the first time since the emancipation, Jamaica has a solid economy. That is a major achievement. I want you to just reflect on that. For the first time since emancipation, Jamaica is close to full employment.
That's incredible.
The previous statistic was at 4.2. They did some revision of how they measure unemployment, so we're at 5%. This is, even at 5%, Even when we were at 7%, that was the lowest level of unemployment in the history of measuring unemployment in Jamaica. How did this happen? I mean, you can only employ people unless you have an economy that is growing. In the United States, you get the unemployment numbers and it's just, you use that to determine the health of your economy. 5% unemployment. The big cry now in Jamaica is that they can't find people to employ. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of them are here. A lot of our skills and resources are right here. But that's a good thing for our economy, because we have given people employment. Now, there are other issues, because immediately the retort is wages are low. I will never argue with that point. But at least we have gotten people into employment. The other big thing about the economy is stability. And for many years, we just couldn't get our interest rates to be stable, our inflation rate, and our exchange rate. We have had stability for that for the past 6 or 7 years. We had a spike because of COVID and inflation, and we're back down to below 6%, single-digit inflation. But the biggest sign of the stability of the economy is that we have been able to present, help me, Minister, is it 9 budgets? 9 budgets. 9 or 8 budgets. With no net new taxes. Just think about that for a while. No net new taxes. And in fact, for the last 6 budgets, absolutely no new taxes.
Exactly. That's phenomenal.
When has that ever happened in Jamaica? So, when people say the sky is falling, yes, from 1865 we've been quarreling about the same thing. Can't get proper health care, bad roads, this, that, and the other. But the reason why is because from then there was never a real attempt to create an economy that would generate employment, create and market and distribute goods and services for which people could generate wealth so they could buy and own land. It wasn't really an economy. Now we have started to put in place the institutions to build a real economy in Jamaica. Now it's at a rudimentary stage, but the fundamentals of the economy is strong. And from the strong fundamentals of the economy, we are taking the dividends of that and we are doing some fantastic things. How many of you have been back to Jamaica and you have driven on the new highways that we have built? My friend says the tolls are expensive.
What did you say? I didn't hear.
But they're not all tolled.
I didn't come.
So I like that that suspicion that roads are going to be tolled. No, only roads that we have declared as toll roads will be tolled. So we have gone on a massive infrastructure, strategic investments. Some roads will be tolled, others won't be. So for example, we have invested 150 million, well, more than that now, about $200 million from Harborview all the way around to Port Antonio. Massive infrastructure work. Some of you may have gone and seen that beautiful highway which now traverses St. Thomas and all the roads that we are improving going around. That is not tolled. No.
Come on, it's not tolled.
No, that road will not be tolled. Yeah. Yes. No. That road is not. So just to be clear, that there is a mechanism for the establishment of a toll road versus a public road. A toll road, it's usually a private-public partnership where the government may have some investments in it, but there is a private partner who is also investing. The public roads, government totally is building. So the road to St. Thomas, total public funds, and there's no intention to toll that road. We have done significant work in doing the Montego Bay Perimeter Road and the Long Hill Bypass. Those are going to be massive road developments. And there are some other major road infrastructure to come. We announced the Spark program, which is a $40 billion program to repair roads right across Jamaica. So I want to just focus for another 2 minutes on roads. Because when I drive on the roads here, wow. So there are some roads. So for many years, we did not make the investments to keep the maintenance of our roads. In fact, we weren't even keeping a full register of all our roads. So when we announced the Spark program, we also did a full inventory, a full register of our roads. We have over 21,000, almost 25,000 kilometers of roadways. That puts us in the top 10% of countries in terms of roads per square mile. So we have a very high road density, which means that the cost of maintaining and repairing roads will be significant. But going forward, the government is making the commitment with the budgetary allocations from our economic performance to build new roads, improve those roads, and to maintain them. It's going to be a 20-year journey for us to get all our roads into the conditions where we can drive in comfort on all of them, to remove the potholes and the eroded surfaces. So I'm not here to tell you that by a snap of the finger, all of that is going to be done. But for the first time, we are in a position that we can project to be able to do this. And that's the difference between then and now. Because, you know, there have been famous promises made that Jamaica will be pothole free by 2003. But you can only make those promises if you have a budget to do it. But just to go back to the point that when the electorate doesn't pay attention to the economy, but pays attention to only promises, what it does, it permits politicians to borrow. It creates a permissiveness that, well, people want all of this, how are we going to get it? Just borrow. Now, think about what borrowing is. And it's so profound for me today dealing with the Future Generation Summit. Think about what borrowing is. Borrowing is paying for today's consumption with tomorrow's taxes. In other words, you're taxing the unborn generations to pay for your consumption today. And that happens because, boy, we are suffering now. You get what I'm saying? The pressure in our society for hundreds of years, we just don't have it. But we miss what we really should be doing is focusing on the economy. Let's build that economy. But instead, the political pressure is not about, it doesn't reward the government that gets you a good economy. It rewards the politicians who promise. Because the pressure is just so high, so any sign of hope I'm trying to change that. It's not easy. Because the pressure and sufferation. People get frustrated. So you have to come with a politics that gives hope, but a politics of realism. And it's very difficult to mix the two things because sometimes, hope and realism don't work together. But I've tried to be as practical and as upfront with the people, as I'm with you today, to say to you that there is sufferation, there is pressure, there are problems. But the hope is that we have fixed the critical element in the equation, the economy. Now, as I said, however, the economy, it's still at a rudimentary level. There needs to be another step that Jamaica has to make. So, we have dealt with the fiscal management of the economy, meaning how we manage the resources that we get from taxes and how we spend, fiscal affairs. The next step now, So you've come here to hear about your country? So I've told you, we have a really solid economy now that is generating revenues, but the important thing about the revenues that it is generating, it is stable. Why stability is so important? Because if you have stable revenues, you can make long-term capital plans, long-term investment plans. So I can tell you that I know with the economy as it is, for 20 years we can make the investments in roads, or in healthcare, or in education, or in security, with stable revenues. But I can tell you one more thing. With stable revenues, we don't have to tax you.